Beneath the timeless sands of Saqqara, where the desert has guarded its secrets for millennia, a discovery has been made that challenges the very bedrock of history. In the year 2024, a joint Egyptian-German expedition was meticulously working in the shadow of the Pyramid of Teti, a monument famed for containing the first of the sacred pyramid texts. Here they unearthed a vertical shaft, a throat of darkness plunging nearly 60 feet into the living rock. At its base, a limestone chamber sealed against the ages. When the seal was broken, the team found themselves gazing upon a scene untouched for over 4,000 years. Yet the true treasure was not the sarcophagus, but what lay beside it. A bundle of papyrus scrolls, carefully bound in linen and resin, preserved to near perfection by the hyper-arid embrace of the desert. Radiocarbon dating returned an almost unbelievable verdict. The scrolls were more than 4,300 years old, predating any complete papyrus ever found in Egypt. But their age was only the first of their revelations. Scholars had expected the familiar litanies, the well-known spells to guide a soul through the underworld. Instead, they found a text of a completely different order. These scrolls were not a guide, but a manual. They contained precise instructions for rituals built not on prayer, but on the principles of light, sound, and sacred geometry. The language spoke of manipulating unseen forces, of harnessing cosmic energies. One passage describes the awakening of the Ka, the vital life force, through the calculated resonance of stone. Another details how the breath of Ra, the sun god, could be channeled through the chambers of rebirth. At first, these were dismissed as elaborate metaphors, but as translation deepened, a terrifying and beautiful precision emerged. The texts were filled with mathematical notations, complex star alignments, and diagrams illustrating how a tomb must be oriented to specific constellations at specific times. One section appeared to be a technical schematic, detailing how limestone, granite, and certain crystalline resins could be layered to create an acoustic chamber, a device, the text claimed, capable of preserving the very voice of the dead. This discovery suggests a civilization that understood acoustics, material science, and astronomy on a level previously considered impossible. Dr. Salima Ikram of the American University in Cairo has called it the most important textual discovery since the Dead Sea Scrolls, stating it bridges the gap between ritual, science, and architecture in a way we have never seen. The tomb itself belonged to a high priest named Neferhotep, a name meaning perfect in peace. His body, wrapped in linen imbued with rare mineral pigments and shimmering gold leaf, rested within. But it was the design of his chamber, the very walls themselves, that held the final clue. For in the silence of his tomb, Neferhotep left not just his body, but a key that unlocks a forgotten science of the soul and forces us to ask not only who the ancient Egyptians were, but what they were truly capable of. Carved into the very stone of the tomb, almost imperceptible to the touch, a network of faint, etched lines spreads across the walls. They are not random scratches left by time, but a deliberate, intricate design. And when compared with diagrams found within the chamber's sacred scrolls, a startling correspondence emerges. It is as though the architecture itself was born from the... But the walls hold deeper secrets. Beneath the veil of millennia, infrared imaging unveils a world invisible to the naked eye. Traces of vibrant paint flicker back to life, revealing faint hieroglyphs and symbols long since faded from human sight. Some depict the elegant geometry of concentric circles, Olin the human form, enveloped in a corona of rays or shimmering arcs. Egyptologists remain deeply divided. Are these merely the mystical visions of a priesthood, a symbolic language of the soul's journey? Or could they be the remnants of a lost science, a forgotten attempt to map the very energy fields of life, what some might call a spiritual aura? The enigma of Neferhotep's tomb does not exist in isolation. What is truly compelling is its profound link to the surrounding necropolis, the silent city of the dead. Recent surveys have uncovered several previously unknown shafts, hidden deep beneath the sands. Within them, an identical layout repeats, a mirror image of Neferhotep's chamber. Each one is a component in a much grander design, for every shaft, every corridor is aligned with breathtaking precision to the heliacal rising of the star Sirius. To the ancient Egyptians, this was no ordinary star. It was the celestial embodiment of the goddess Isis, the harbinger of the Nile's flood and the promise of rebirth. It becomes clear this was not just a tomb, but a single node in a vast ritualistic complex, a machine built of stone and starlight, designed not merely to preserve a body, but to actively transform the soul through cosmic alignment. In the sterile, climate-controlled environment of the Egyptian Museum's conservation lab, one of the scrolls offers another clue. As it is painstakingly unrolled, its fragile fibers lack ink, a sacred convention used to denote divine speech or words of immense power. The symbols themselves defy conventional interpretation. They appear to form rhythmic, repeating patterns, bearing a striking resemblance not to language, but to musical notation. A radical theory has emerged among a handful of researchers that this text is not meant to be read, but to be sung. A chant, a tonal sequence to be performed during the most sacred funerary ceremonies. It is a theory that, until recently, would have been dismissed as fantasy. But recent acoustic studies have lent it astonishing weight. Using sophisticated digital reconstruction, scientists have created a virtual model of the tomb's inner chamber. When they simulated the frequencies suggested by the scroll's patterns, they made an extraordinary discovery. Certain specific tones did not simply echo, they were dramatically amplified by the chamber's precise geometry, creating powerful standing waves. These waves of pure sound would have converged upon the sarcophagus, causing the massive stone box itself to vibrate. This resonant architecture could not have been accidental. It aligns perfectly with cryptic phrases found elsewhere in the scroll, phrases that speak of the awakening breath and the vibration of the Ka, the essential life force. The implications are staggering. For generations, we have viewed the funereal rites of ancient Egypt as purely spiritual affairs, symbolic acts intended to guide the deceased on a perilous journey to the afterlife. But these discoveries suggest something far more profound, a technical understanding of transformation where ritual and physics were inextricably intertwined. It forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew. It is as if the priests of the Nile were not just praying for resurrection, they were attempting to engineer it, experimenting with the very fabric of the human soul, in the same way modern scientists experiment with energy and matter. Even the vessel of this knowledge, the papyrus itself, has yielded surprises. Microscopic analysis has identified traces of rare plant fibers, species not native to the Nile Valley. They were imported, perhaps from the distant Levant or the deep south of Nubia, hinting at a vast and ancient trade network dedicated solely to the production of these sacred technical manuals. The knowledge was so vital, it was worth crossing deserts to create. We are left to wonder at the sheer scale of this lost understanding. In our modern world, we have drawn a sharp line between faith and physics, between the mystical and the measurable. Perhaps the greatest secret buried in the Egyptian sands is not how to die, but a reminder that such a line may never have existed at all. In the fading light of Egypt's new kingdom, as the empire reached its zenith, a sacred cosmology was committed to papyrus. These texts were not mere histories, but guides for the soul's perilous journey through the underworld. Yet, according to the meticulous records of an excavation team, a profound mystery remains. From one recovered bundle, a crucial scroll had been torn away in antiquity, its absence a silent wound in the sacred canon. Surviving fragments hint at its contents. The final rite of illumination, a ceremony detailing the ultimate apotheosis, the moment an initiate's soul would finally merge with the eternal stars. Some whisper that this lost chapter of immortality lies buried still, coiled in the darkness of an unexcavated shaft, a final piece of the puzzle waiting for the light. The scrolls that have been found have redrawn our understanding of the Egyptian rituals of death. But deep within the Valley of the Kings, the great necropolis of the pharaohs, a far greater secret lay dormant. Here, one tomb, designated KV62, remained sealed for over 3,000 years, guarding a silence untouched since the age of Tutankhamun. Beneath the scorched sands and the watchful limestone cliffs, a truth refused to die. For 3 millennia, it lay inviolate, unscenes that rose and fell above it. But in the year 1922, when the archaeologist Howard Carter breached its entrance, the world held its breath. What lay inside was not merely a collection of ancient artifacts. It was a message, frozen in time, from a forgotten boy king, a ruler whose name had been systematically erased from monuments, his legacy condemned to oblivion by his successors. This is the story of a tomb that forever altered our perception of the ancient world. But what made KV62 so different? Why did this one modest burial endure when the grand tombs of even to Carter's astonished eyes have modern technologies now begun to uncover? The answers are as enigmatic as they are revelatory. It all began with a whisper, a ghost of a name in dusty administrative records, suggesting a tomb had been missed. By the early 20th century, the Valley of the Kings was considered an exhausted claim, a place that had yielded all its secrets. Dozens of royal tombs had been catalogued, studied, and, in nearly every case, emptied long before the dawn of modern archaeology. Yet Howard Carter remained unyielding. He was possessed by the conviction that one more ruler rested here, a minor pharaoh, a boy from a heretical age. For 5 arduous seasons he dug, his obsession pushing his patron to the brink of abandoning the search. Then, on the 4th of November, 1922, fate intervened. A young water boy, carrying jars to the crew, stumbled on a stone step buried just beneath the surface rubble. That single, accidental motion would trigger the most spectacular discovery in the annals of archaeology. From the outside, the entrance to KV62 was deceptively humble. There were no towering pylons, no grand colonnades, only a sunken staircase leading to a sealed doorway buried deep beneath the foundations of a later tomb. But beyond that plaster seal, time itself had ceased to move. The antechamber was a chaotic treasury, a vision of unimaginable wealth. Goldens, sentinel statues of the king, stood guard, their black skin and gold kilts gleaming in the torchlight. Intricately painted boxes and alabaster vases, still holding ancient perfumes, were piled high. It was, as Carter famously uttered, a room of wonderful things. But the true prize lay deeper still, behind another sealed doorway guarded by statues. Here was the burial chamber, a room almost entirely filled by a colossal golden shrine. Within it lay a second, then a third, and a fourth. And inside the last, a sarcophagus of red quartzite. When its massive lid was raised, it revealed not one, but 3 nested coffins, each more magnificent than the last. The innermost, weighing over 110 kilograms, was crafted from solid gold. And there, resting in death as he had in life, was Tutankhamun, a boy who ascended to the throne at just 9 years of age, tasked with healing a nation fractured by the religious revolution of his father, the heretic king Akhenaten. His short, troubled reign was a footnote, deliberately erased. But in his death, he achieved an immortality his powerful successors never could. His tomb was not a monument to power, but a desperate, successful bid for eternity. A conversation across millennia, proving that what is forgotten by humanity can still be remembered by the earth. The name echoes through a century of discovery, a whisper of gold and myth. Tutankhamun. Yet the pharaoh himself remains a shadow, his identity eclipsed by the sheer weight of his treasure. The central paradox of his legacy is not what was found, but where it was found. In a tomb so modest, so incongruous for a king, that its very existence defies royal precedent. To understand this, we must journey back to the turbulent heart of the 18th dynasty. He was a boy king, thrust onto the throne in the wake of a spiritual storm. His father, the heretic Akhenaten, had waged war not on a foreign power, but on the very soul of Egypt. For centuries, the pantheon of gods, led by the mighty Amun-Ra, had governed every facet of life and death. Akhenaten sought to tear it all down, to silence 1,000 gods in favor of one, the Aten, the sun's radiant disk. When the young Tutankhamun ascended, he was tasked with healing this fractured nation. The old gods were reinstated. The priests of Amun-Ra returned to their temples, their power restored. The capital was moved back from Akhenaten's desert city to the traditional heart of Thebes. It was an act of profound restoration. But destiny would grant him little time to rule. At just 18 or 19 years of age, the pharaoh was dead. The tomb prepared for him, KV 62, was a hurried affair, a cramped and humble space almost certainly designed for a non-royal courtier and hastily repurposed for a king. And in this rushed, undignified burial lay the seed of its miraculous survival. While the grand tombs of mightier pharaohs were carved deep into the valley's cliffs, beacons for plunderers, Tutankhamun's was tucked away, an architectural footnote. Debris from the construction of a later tomb cascaded down, burying its entrance, wiping it from memory. For 3,000 years, it lay hidden in plain sight, a secret kept by sand and stone. The great necropolis was violated, its kings desecrated, their treasures stolen. But the boy king slept on. History reveals, however, that his rest was not entirely untouched. The seal was breached not once, but twice in antiquity. We see the evidence in the chaotic jumble of the antechamber, the hasty resealing of the doorways. But these were clumsy, panicked intrusions. The thieves, perhaps interrupted, never penetrated the sanctum sanctorum. The golden sarcophagi, the iconic death mask, the pharaoh himself, the ultimate prize, remained sealed away from the world. It is modern science that has peeled back the final layers of linen and gold to reveal the fragile boy within. Computed tomography scans and DNA analysis paint a haunting portrait. This was not a god-king in the image of his statues, but a youth beset by physical suffering. A club foot, a severe deformity of his left foot, would have forced him to walk with a painful limp. This is poignantly confirmed by the discovery of over 130 walking sticks and canes, many showing clear signs of use. His very bloodline, a product of intense royal inbreeding, had become a curse, leaving him vulnerable. We now know he was afflicted with malaria, and a severe fracture to his femur, perhaps from a fall, may have led to a fatal infection. His death was not a glorious climax on a battlefield, but a slow, tragic decline. And yet, the treasures interred with him speak a different language, one of immense power, divine right, and profound love. A dagger, its blade forged from the iron of a fallen star, a metal more precious than gold to the Egyptians. A golden throne, intricately carved, with a tender scene of his queen Tutankhamun anointing him with perfume. And the mask, that sublime icon of solid gold, inlaid with lapis lazuli and obsidian, staring into eternity with an expression of serene, absolute authority. In death, Tutankhamun achieved an immortality that eluded him in his short, painful life, not as a conqueror, but as an eternal symbol of rediscovered wonder. A century after Howard Carter first peered into the darkness, the tomb has not yielded all its secrets. In 2015, ground-penetrating radar scans of the burial chamber's northern and western walls revealed tantalizing anomalies, faint outlines of what could be hidden voids, sealed doorways. The theory ignited the world of Egyptology. Could KV-62 be merely the antechamber to a much grander tomb? Could the lost burial of the enigmatic Queen Nefertiti, Akhenaten's powerful wife, lie just beyond the painted plaster? Subsequent investigations, however, have only deepened the mystery. One scan finds evidence, another finds nothing. The debate rages, a scientific schism between those who see hollow chambers and those who see only solid limestone. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities continues its cautious investigation, but the walls remain silent, guarding their truth. Perhaps the greatest treasure Tutankhamun left us was not the gold or the alabaster, but the enduring mystery itself. The very possibility that more lies beyond our sight reminds us that the past is never truly settled. It is a conversation across millennia, where the silence often speaks more profoundly than any discovery ever could. The allure is undeniable. In the silent hollows of the Valley of the Kings, the tomb designated KV-62 exists as a profound paradox, both a final, gilded resting place and an explosive beginning. Its unsealing in the early 20th century did not merely yield treasures of gold and lapis lazuli, it ignited a global fire, a renewed fascination with the lost world of the pharaohs. The discovery redefined our understanding of dynastic politics, of sacred burial rites, and of the extraordinary lengths a civilization would go to grant its rulers passage into eternity. Tutankhamun, once a minor king lost to the footnotes of history, was resurrected as a global icon. Yet the greatest secret KV-62 holds is not forged in metal or carved in stone. It is the quiet, persistent reminder that the Earth can still whisper long-forgotten names, that history remains an unfinished story, capable of astonishing us when we least expect it. But that was a single tomb, a singular miracle of preservation. Deep beneath the more ancient sands of the Giza Plateau, an entirely different kind of mystery has been unearthed. A recently uncovered shaft has led Egyptologists not to a solitary chamber, but to something far more bewildering. A hidden, subterranean network that defies every expectation. They call it the Osiris shaft. Positioned with unnerving precision directly under the ancient causeway that links the Sphinx to the second pyramid, it is not a constructed tomb, but a wound carved directly into the living limestone bedrock. The descent is a journey 100 feet into the earth, a passage through 3 distinct levels, each deeper and more unsettling than the last. It is a place of profound disquiet. And it is on the 3rd and final level, a chamber of absolute darkness, that the true enigma is found. Here, a side tunnel branches off, a dark maw leading into unexplored territory. In a documentary film, the famed Egyptologist Zahi Hawass stood at its precipice, admitting to the world that its destination was unknown, its contents a complete mystery. And then, the passage was sealed. Blocked from entry, its secrets once again locked away in the deep earth. It is a stark reminder that some discoveries are not meant for public consumption, that certain doors, once found, are deliberately closed. What lies within that silent passage? A treasure? A tomb? Or a truth so profound that those in power have deemed humanity is not yet ready to confront it? The desert still guards its mysteries, but it is the living who decide which of those secrets are ever brought to light.